All right. Welcome to the May 6th Tri-City meeting of the Lamorinda Cities, Lafayette, Moraga, and Orinda. We are now going to call this meeting to order. And first off, I'd like to do the roll call, and I will start with the City of Orinda. If you can, please start with the roll call of your council.
Sure. I'm Darlene G. I'm the mayor this year in Orinda.
Lethe Kamalkani, Vice Mayor, present.
Janet Riley, council member present.
Inga Miller, council member present.
Brandon Iverson, council member present.
Thank you. So your council is here in full, and the City of Moraga.
There. I'm Teresa Onoda, happily mayor of lovely Moraga.
Councilmember Renata Sauce.
Councilmember Carrie Hillis.
Vice Mayor Steve Wallachy.
Councilmember David Shapiro.
And Vice Mayor Kwok, I'll ask you to lead off with your presence.
Vice Mayor Wei-Tai Kwok with the City of Lafayette.
Councilmember Carl Anduri.
Councilmember John McCormick.
Councilmember Susan Candell is absent tonight by Mayor Gina Dawson. So we also have a quorum of our city council. So thank you. And now we'll move on to the adoption of agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor of the adoption of tonight's Tri-City agenda?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. It is unanimous. So we will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we will now move to public comments for items that are not on the agenda.
Mayor Dawson, I have one speaker in the audience here to speak, and I don't see currently any attendees with their hands raised. So Libby Henry. Each speaker will have 3 minutes.
Welcome, everyone, and thanks for being here. I just had some items that I wanted to make sure that all 3 city councils were aware of. And my first is an ask for each city council to write a letter of support for our Senator Glazer's request that he has put in for a complete audit of everyone's RENA numbers. It is being heard on May 14th in the Joint Audit Committee in Sacramento. So time is of the essence in that regard. Secondly, I'd like to ask that each city officially write a resolution and endorse our neighborhood voices, because as you all know, our cities are having their rights and powers taken away from them bit by bit. And ONV is at least a major part of the solution. And thirdly, in light of the recent court decision that 5 cities in Southern California were involved in, the court decided that SB 9 was indeed unconstitutional for charter cities. So, and that will apply retroactively to all charter cities. So I'd like to ask that Lafayette and Moraga and Orinda all apply to be, I don't know if you can do a Lamorinda charter city or not, but to please consider seriously applying for that. And just one more ask for the Lafayette City Council, to please, on the housing element, please consider that the majority of the people in Lafayette, their number one ask is that the downtown not be upzoned. And there have been ways, and Rob Lavoie and Colin Elliott and others have submitted several proposals that can work, that would work, to please consider, that as part of our housing element. It doesn't need to be upzoned. Let's not do it. And any questions? Okay. I hope you take me seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more public comments?
Mayor, no additional speakers at this time.
Okay, then with that, we will close public comments and move on to item 7. City and Town Council introductions and updates. And by way of roll call, we did an introduction to who is present. Mayor G, if you would like to give any update on your City of Orinda, you're welcome.
I'll just touch on a couple of items. As some of you know, we are in the process of hiring a new planning director, and I understand from our city manager that he's getting ever closer to making that offer. So sometime in the next few weeks, we should have a new planning director on board in the city of Orinda. And then unfortunately, we're also losing David to go live with his family. We still don't quite understand why he picked the family over us, but he did. And so we are in the process right now as a council of getting ready to interview candidates for new city manager. So those are probably our biggest items of mutual interest. So you should see some new faces at the staff in Orinda in the next few months.
Thank you. Mayor Onoda?
Okay, I've got a little bit more to tell you about, and we don't mean to brag, but I think I'm going to be bragging. So sorry. St. Mary's College men's rugby team just won national championship on Saturday. Yay. Our general plan is in the works of being updated. And on April 30th, we had a community outreach and over 60 residents. So we'll look at that as a success, and it's in the process. The housing development, we have state certified housing element in September 2023. Right now, we have a 49 100% affordable apartment project on Ream Boulevard that's been submitted. So for Moraga, that's a big deal. We don't usually have developments. And so this is very exciting. We have in review a 100-unit apartment project in the Ream Center. And we have a 66-unit apartment project near Moraga Center in review, and others in the planning stages for over 200 units. So that's a little bit of bragging rights, I think. We also have an aggressive street rehabilitation program, and it's town-wide 4+ miles and $6 million by the end of 2024. And we kind of did something different. We revised our street rehabilitation. And so it's a cost sharing and it's benefiting residents. So if right now we're at the worst case streets, the worst, out of Moraga, and usually their sidewalks are the worst as well. So we're actually helping the residents out and we're paying for that, if we're doing that street and if they need to be done. So that's something a little different. And this is very exciting. Moraga Orinda Teen Pickleball Tournament was April 28th. It was organized by Moraga youth involvement, and Orinda Teen Advisory Council. 55 teens participated, and all three Lamorinda cities. And I think we won, didn't we?
Just say we did.
Oh, just say we did. Okay, we won. Okay, there we go. I like that. So there was an MPA Spring 2024 Walking Challenge, and Moraga placed first out of 17. And it was first place individuals out of several hundreds. And Orinda came in third, and Lafayette did well as well, but we won't go into numbers. End of report.
Aren't you going to mention your 50th anniversary?
Oh, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Yes. Moraga was incorporated 50 years ago in November, and we're having a parade September 28th. You are all welcome to come. We have so far 30 different groups in the parade, and it will be a small town parade similar to Orinda's parade with marching bands and stilt walkers and veterans and Boy Scouts and everything all American. It'll be wonderful. So everybody is welcome.
Thank you. So 50 years, that's a good segue into our 175 plus years of history that we celebrated last year. It was basically, you know, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. So part of that is segue into sustainable growth. But last year, we did celebrate 175 plus years of Lafayette history. You might have seen the utility box wraps up and down Mount Diablo that depicts that, as well as we adopted a land acknowledgement statement in deference to our history. We did a lot of work on safety last year, which is our fundamental responsibility, of course, but we had a particular priority about multimodal safety around schools. So we invested a lot of time, energy, and budget to that, and feel really good about where that is right now. That is a continued effort. We adopted a traffic calming program, our local road safety program last year, and launched a Slow Down Lafayette campaign, which is still ongoing, all with Vision Zero in mind. So that's a big priority. We completed our safety element, which many components obviously are relevant to the presentations tonight. And we continue to work on fire and safety preparedness. And thank you to all our partners. And we see you out here for all your work on that and continued work. In fact, this week, Con Fire is working on clearing our evacuation routes. So we're happy about that, and a town hall. And Lafayette tomorrow at our community center, Con Fire is presenting wildfire preparedness and safety. That's at 7 o'clock. So our Lamorinda partners are welcome to come. And another thing we have been working on and is a priority for this year and has been is fiscal sustainability, because that factors into our path ahead too, as well as what we are doing to prepare for our housing element, which is right now in public review. We've been working on that since 2020, of course, as you have, but it is out right now to go back to the state shortly. And we are looking forward to development coming in and welcoming new residents and making our downtown corridor, where that growth is planned, a safe and sustainable and vibrant place to be. So that is our work is underway right now. And on that note, just want to say there's a lot of things happening downtown. In tandem with our Chamber of Commerce, there will be an artisanal walk, a first ever, downtown this Saturday. So come down, local artisans and the businesses. Right before Mother's Day is a good time to pick up a little something, as well as Taste of Lafayette's coming up and summer concerts. So we look forward to welcoming you all there as well. Thank you all for being here. We're very happy to have you all here. With that, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is our presentations. And I would like to introduce Sean Knapp from the town of Moraga.
Mayor, I had no public comments on that last
Oh.
item.
Why, thank you. I am glad you reminded me. Thanks, Joanne.
All right, here we go. Good evening, mayors, vice mayors, council members. My name is Sean Knapp. I'm with the town of Moraga. I'm the public works director and town engineer. I've been with the town for 7 years and 31 years as an engineer. This year's annual joint Lamorinda council meeting, we have 2 presentations today for you, focusing on our Lamorinda evacuation preparedness studies that we've been working on currently. Before I introduce the speakers, I would like to provide a little bit of context and introduce some important police and PD and fire staff in attendance, and also thank some of our sponsors for these projects. In attendance tonight is John Hong, representing the Contra Costa Transportation Authority behind me. They're a sponsor of the Lamorinda Smart Signals Project, and also with the evacuation grant application that we have submitted to Caltrans for funding that we're going to be talking about in a little while. Also, a big supporter of the projects that we have before you today is Tim Hale. He's the CCTA Executive Director, who's been instrumental in supporting the Lamorinda agencies in these endeavors. Also represented here for Congressman DeSagne, who could not be here tonight, is Ryan Thomas Brown, the Congressman's Deputy District Director. The Congressman is also a big sponsor of our Lamorinda Smart Signals Project through their community project federal appropriations. The Congressman asked me to read a quick thing here from their office. Please feel free to contact the office of Congressman Mark DeSagne for assistance with federal grants, letters of support for federal grants. You can also sign up with the Office of Grants newsletter by contacting the office. Additionally, we can continue to assist individual constituents, federal agencies such as FEMA, IRS, Social Security. Should anybody or someone need assistance, please do not hesitate to contact my office. Also, we have a representative from Barrow County's office. That's Antoinette St. John's, the field representative. The Assembly member is a big proponent of wildfire prevention and preparation for our residents, and she had a quick thing to pass on. I would like to thank all the 3 councils and the Contra Costa Transportation Authority for providing this opportunity to share valuable information. Wildfire evacuation is an issue that is important and on top of everybody's minds in Lamorinda. I know how hard MOFD and Con Fire and their partners are working to keep our community safe from wildfire risk. It's important that we all continue to collaborate, making our communities aware and more prepared in case of emergency. My field representative, Antoinette, is here to answer any questions or provide any information after the meeting. Okay, to set the fundamentals for the presentation to come, the Lamorinda cities continue to jointly plan and train for possible future local and regional evacuations. While our 2 presentations tonight are focused on our latest joint efforts of our planning and transportation departments, we need to recognize our police departments and fire departments who have long ongoing efforts at implementing evacuation preparation programs for our residents. So tonight we have our police chiefs for the 3 agencies. We also have representatives from CONFAR and MFD here tonight and with us. Some notable things that they've been doing all along and in the past is studying and modeling evacuation routes for our various agencies and events, developing wildfire evacuation zones and automated emergency notification for our residents, doing mock evacuation events, training our police and fire staff along with the public, coordinating with the Community Emergency Relief Response Team, CERT, volunteering, training with our residents, developing and distributing wildfire preparation and evacuation guides from each of our residents. And the example is one of the kind of guides that they provide from both agencies, the both fire agencies. So I urge all our residents to go check out each of our agencies' websites for more information. And so I'd like to introduce our first presenter. It's Afsha Mead here from the town of Moraga. She's our planning director. She's been with the town of Moraga for 4 years and 20+ years in the field. She's been leading our joint efforts in the Lamorinda Planning Initiative for Lamorinda Evacuation Study, coordinating these things regionally. The Lamorinda agencies have partnered with CCTA, as I mentioned earlier, to apply for grant funding. And I'll turn it over to Afsha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sean. And I'm really excited to be here before council members and mayors. Thank you for this opportunity. So I'm going to present the Lamorinda evacuation preparedness and what the 3 cities are doing regionally and collaboratively tonight. So real simple diagram. The evacuation has become a 3-legged stool. Implementation, as Sean mentioned, is the important first leg of the stool and the work being carried out by our emergency responders. Transportation, which is the second leg of the stool, is currently evaluating the existing roadway network capacity and improvements, and more will be provided in the presentation by Siva Nararanjan from town of Orinda to my right. And the third leg is basically a recent leg that was added, and that's the planning departments, where we are looking at future scenarios and what the build-out projections may be with the new RENA numbers as a result of our 6-cycle housing elements. The RENA numbers for each city are: for Lafayette, it's 2,114, for Moraga, it's 1,118, and for Orinda, 1,359. So the focus of this presentation is the response to future build-outs with additional housing requirements and with more residents being added to these units, and how the Lamorinda region has become the leader in addressing evacuation studies. So during the state-mandated housing element process, a new set of requirements was added to address evacuations through SB 99, which is local level evacuations, AB 747, which is a high-level route capacity, safety and viability analysis, and then all that had to tie back to AB 1409, which is the local hazard mitigation plan. During the housing element process, if this wasn't enough, the Attorney General issued a guidance memo essentially providing that housing numbers and future development cannot be precluded by evacuations. The AG's office also put out guidance for evacuations. Additionally, during the housing element process, residents vocalized addressing evacuations as a high priority. While our emergency responders have a coordinated response and transportation was working on smart signals, the planning leg of the stool was not only still grappling with the large RENA numbers, but also how best to respond to the AG's office, the increased resident concerns, and future resident build-out scenarios. So each city was mandated to adopt its own housing element. And naturally, we were also taking an agency by agency approach to evacuation requirements. So each city was slightly varied in terms of how we were identified on CAL FIRE maps and the risk level. During this period of time, it was also shared that CAL FIRE was in the process of updating its fire maps. So the 3 planning directors met a few times in 2022, and I want to say that my counterparts from Orinda and Lafayette, we had a very good shared collaboration. But we discussed how best to handle evacuations, and we shared knowledge with each other. As each of our cities was at different stages of the housing elements and the safety elements, both Orinda and Lafayette were underway with plans to address the state laws. However, there was essentially no book or how best to approach evacuations, so it was new territory for all 3 of our jurisdictions. The cities met in October of 2023 with the 3 city managers, the 3 planning directors, and the police chiefs, and also Sean Knapp. The three cities took a broader approach, especially as evacuation studies, the methodology, the analysis, and the technology was all rapidly changing in a matter of months. What was scheduled to be a 1-hour meeting quickly evolved into a 2-hour meeting, with each city easily seeing the benefit of a comprehensive, collaborative regional approach. It became very clear the cross-jurisdictional approach would allow for mitigated risk, anticipate future scenarios and zones as a region, and understanding that evacuation routes and directions were based on scenarios. Depending on where the event was happening, we needed to rely on the same resources. And the ability to work seamlessly became a priority to serve all of our residents. We were cross-multiplying our resources by working together. It also placed the Lamorinda region in a proactive and forward-thinking approach with a win-win for the region. A broader approach would look at evacuations area-wide and allow the three legs of the stool to work in a more comprehensive manner. A new countywide emergency evacuation plan will address climate change, infrastructure adaptation, vulnerability, and resiliency. So the Lamorinda region collaboration entailed partnering with CCTA. And we are indebted to our partners, both Tim Hale and John Wong. CCTA embraced the opportunity to lead the project and allow for much needed public outreach and participation and the benefit of resiliency due to the climate change effects. Based on the Lamorinda model and desire to take a regional approach, CCTA expanded the scope to all 20 jurisdictions in Contra Costa County, underserved populations, and multiple stakeholders, including MTC, transit operators, Bay Area Regional Collaborative, fire departments, police departments, East Bay Regional Parks, BART, and Amtrak. So current projections show that Contra Costa County will experience a unique combination of climate-induced effects. These effects will include substantially increased sea level rise, wildfire, and levee failures. These impacts will exacerbate existing hazards and are expected to strain the transportation networks that we currently have throughout all of Contra Costa County. So CCTA took this model and expanded it and sought grant funding through the Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant. The plan builds upon the development of Contra Costa County as a multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan. An outcome of this study, as identified by several agencies throughout Contra Costa County, is understanding climate change and other hazard risks that may result, as well as evacuations using routes that may span several jurisdictions. And the study, if awarded, will further planning resources for extreme weather events by focusing on preparedness drills, evacuation planning drills, identifying communities with inadequate access to transportation options, planning for increased transportation options, identifying opportunities for intelligent transportation systems, education campaigns, and the study, as proposed for this grant, will tie to regional and sub-regional planning efforts conducted at the local level and assessments of SB 99, AB 747 for all the 20 member agencies. In short, this approach takes what would have been an agency by agency approach and creates a new model that can be replicated throughout Contra Costa County. The grant is pending, and we will know more about the status in early summer of 2024. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm available to take any questions.
All right. Are there questions from council?
Thank you. Afsha, what does, when you say, where did it go? Warning system upgrades, what does that mean?
More of that will be discussed in the next presentation, but it's part of making our roadway system smarter and more adaptable and capable.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. To what degree is stakeholder engagement included in the plan for the study?
It actually becomes a core element of the grant if we are granted, if we are awarded the grant, and there will be multiple stakeholder engagement throughout the entire process. And I want to say that when we were initially doing these studies and looking at it agency by agency, that component was really missing because all this was still relatively new to each of the agencies. So we were trying to basically figure it out. But then as we took a more regional approach, the outreach became an important component.
Councilmember Iverson?
In the case of wildfire evacuation, we get a lot of questions about modeling wildfires and how they spread and how that impacts the kind of studies that we do. To what extent will this grant include sort of dynamic fire modeling?
So that is one of the core areas that the grant will consider or undertake is dynamic modeling. And again, this was one of the things that was evolving and the technology was changing and emerging. So it became pretty evident that that's the way to approach this modeling and the analysis.
Councilmember Malconey?
Two questions. One was about dynamic fire modeling. Where do you have a sense of sort of where we are in that evolving technology? Is it still evolving? Is there any time by which we feel just anything you could share on that? I know it's a new area. And then the second question I had, which is somewhat related, is do you know if regional efforts like this have been undertaken elsewhere in the state?
We do know that a regional effort has been taken in Southern California, so we did take a look at that as well. And in terms of dynamic modeling, this is evolving, and what is we are looking at tools like GIS and even Google, because those tools are so necessary to understand this. And the tools are still evolving, but we're ready to take this on.
Mayor G, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess I would like to ask, given the modeling, given the study, what is the final product that's expected to be delivered? Is it going to be a tool that's going to continue to be updated and used? Can you share with us, exactly what it may mean to all of our communities?
Sure. So one of the things that we are doing is an important partner throughout all of this is our fire departments and ConFire and MOFD. And what we're going to be doing is working with them very closely to develop the models and also understanding the transportation networks and also behaviors and what happens during different times. If there's something that happens at 2:00 in the morning versus 4:00 in the afternoon, that's a very different behavior altogether. So we'll be taking a look at different scenarios and how they are modeled, and we'll have an actual tool to share.
Councilmember Sass?
Thank you, Mayor. Afsha, thank you so much. So it says the grants will be awarded in the summer. And if we are so fortunate, what is the timeline after that?
So one of the things, once we get the grant and it's awarded, we will have to go out with an RFP to hire a consultant, a transportation consultant to do this. And so that's one of the core items that we will need to conduct. Public outreach, once we have a consultant awarded, and outreach meetings and how those should be done. And then we will work with our partners to develop the modeling.
Okay, so third quarter
It
of
could,
this year, right?
it could take, let's just say it could take a couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Shapiro?
Thank you. What happens if we don't get a grant? Is there a plan or a backup plan to work together to come up with our own response to these evacuation concerns?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I would really present that to you and ask, what do you want to do as a backup plan?
It does seem to me that the towns ought to keep working together and figure out what happens if we don't get the money to hire this consultant and do a joint plan, but we can still have plans that coordinate with each other, right? Wouldn't that be the natural
Yeah,
response?
I mean, we are doing a 20 agency effort right now, which I think is a really good effort because it will also support our more vulnerable residents. And those agencies that may not necessarily be thinking about this. And I think it also puts us in line with Confire, MOFD, our police departments, and our transportation departments, and gets us all thinking very collaboratively. So I think this is a good opportunity. And then, if we don't get this grant, I think we should still look at other opportunities for a grant that are out there. I think this is a really good model.
Thank you. Councilmember Hillis?
Thank you. So I know you're really busy. Sean, I know you're really busy, and I'm sure that's also the story in our other communities as well. What does the work share look like for this? And you mentioned that this is something going on in 20 separate agencies. So who's taking lead? What's the role of each of our individual agencies?
Sure. So the lead agency on this will be the CCTA. And so we will be working in step, in line with CCTA, and they will be carrying out the work. They will be looking at the consultants, and they will also be doing the heavy lifting with the outreach. And of course, they will work with us to do the outreach to our communities and provide updates to our councils and our residents.
This is very similar to the model that we have with the smart signals, where CCTA is the lead, hiring the consultants, and working with each of the three agencies on the details that occur in each particular agency and the needs that are unique for each agency. Asha has been talking about, the planning leg of this, looking into the future. Of course, our police departments and fire departments have all been working on this for many years. They also get grants for this type of work. It's just now we're looking at it from a planning level, looking at it from a regional level, which is a little more unique. I know we team together with one or two of the agencies, but this is a broader scale, which has benefits because, as Asha was mentioning, we're multiplying our forces by working together with our limited resources to combine our efforts and for lower cost and a better output. Because if there's evacuation, we don't know which direction the evacuation is going to be going to. It could be going towards Orinda, it could be going to Moraga. We don't know. It depends on the event. And of course, our police chief and our fire chiefs are here afterwards. If you have any additional questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to come up and speak to some of that. But they already do this planning, and we're just kind of combining with all three agencies on one level at this point.
Thank you for that. Are there any more questions from the councils? No, then I will ask if there is any public comment.
Mayor Dawson is taking public comments on item 8A. I have no speaker slips from members in the hall, and I have no hands raised in our virtual audience.
Thank you. Then I will bring this back to council. I just want to say many thanks for all this work, obviously over a few years, and this collaboration. It's sounds like a very exciting but complex project, and will benefit all our communities, I know, and very thankful that there are partners here that are also interested in seeing this through. So I'm looking forward to any update on the grant. When is that grant period notification?
I think we should know by early summer 2024, June, most likely.
Okay, so around the corner. Yes, please, Councilmember Sauce.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to thank the staffs of all three cities. This is an incredibly timely, wise, and judicious project that our constituents need, want, and that it makes sense to have the three communities collaborate on, because we know that evacuation and fire safety do not stop at the borders of the city. We also know that all of the development that we are going to be doing over the foreseeable future also has impacts across the borders of our cities. So to do a comprehensive, holistic, and collaborative look at evacuation makes imminent sense. So I just want to thank our staffs for coming up with this idea. I mean, it really was generated from the grassroots, and we very much appreciate you all being proactive and taking a leadership role. I also want to thank CCTA for partnering with us in this and for recognizing the model that Lamorinda is providing for the entire county, and also for taking the leadership role of extending this study throughout the county, because it'll be to the benefit of all of our residents. And so, John, thank you. Thank you, Tim. And I think CCTA is uniquely positioned to take a leadership role in this because of its expertise in all things transportation, all things movement of people in multi-modes, and to provide that coordination role that CCTA is uniquely positioned to provide. So I can't wait to see what happens with the grant. I am sure that whatever package we put together will be fantastic and incredibly competitive. And we look forward to maybe talking about how the study is going this time next year.
Now, thank you, Councilmember Sauce. Is there any other comments? All right. Oh, sorry, please.
I can't agree with you more, Councilmember Sauce. I mean, this is adopting a regional approach to evacuation planning, and especially a regional approach that is looking into, dynamic fire modeling and, I think we are at the cutting edge of the state in doing this, but I also think we're exactly where every community needs to be that has the, fire hazards and the potential hazards that we do. So thank you so much. And thank you, yes, to CCTA and all our partners.
Yes, a resounding agreement with the comments, I think, on all of our behalf. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll move on to the next presentation, which is the Contra Costa County, the CCTA Smart Signals Project status update.
Our second presenter is Siva Nadaranjan, City of Orinda City Engineer. Siva has been with the City of Orinda for 4.5 years and 20 years as an engineer. Siva, alongside myself, Patrick Onier, Mike Moran, who's also in the audience here from both of Lafayette, are jointly working on our 2 Lamorinda signal projects. Siva is going to provide you with an update on the projects. I'll turn it over to Siva.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, mayors, vice mayors, and council members of the cities of Lafayette and Orinda and the town of Moraga. As Sean mentioned, I am Siva Natarajan with the City of Orinda. I'm the city engineer working with the Public Works Department. And I'm honored to be here this evening to provide you an update on the Smart Signals projects. Before I get started on the presentation, I just wanted to take a moment to recognize the significant contributions I received in putting this thing together from Lafayette and Moraga's staff, particularly from Sean Knapp, actually, and John Hong at CCTA and their consultant Advanced Mobility Group. With that, I will get started. Following with some additional recognitions, the Smart Signal projects are a unique endeavor where the Lamorinda agencies worked closely together along with Congressman Dussanier's office and Contra Costa Transportation Authority offices and identified a regional need for safety improvements. And we worked together to secure funding and share expertise to implement a global project. As noted here, Teresa Geringer, a former council member with City of Lafayette, was a huge proponent of it, along with Mark Dussanier's congressman's office and Tim Hale, director of CCTA. Sorry, I apologize. In addition to it, there was quite a bit of support and efforts put in by the LFFA and LPMC committee, which involves current and former council members of all three agencies. So although the term Smart Signals project is used interchangeably, it actually represents two separate projects. The one is the Lamorinda Smart Signal System project, which actually is sponsored through Dussanier's office from a federal community project grant. This one addresses pretty much all 56 traffic signals that are within the Lamorinda agency to upgrade them to a more smart signal setup. And then the second project is the county-wide smart signals project that CCTA sponsored. And that's funded through the One Bay Area grant with a Lamorinda focus is only on 18 of the 56 intersections that met certain criteria that was put in place for that project. Overall, the county-wide project is actually much larger project with $30 million of funding spent over 19 jurisdictions and implementing upgrades over 328 intersections. Funding for these projects are both federally funded and there is also a local match component associated with it. For the Lamorinda agencies, that matching funding is being provided through the regional transportation impact fee component that's generally overseen by a JPA, which is the LFFA for our region. Here's a simple breakdown of what these projects are and what they are funding. And as you can see here, the federal community funding, which is also referred to as the earmark funds, is providing for all 56 intersections within the Lamorinda agencies. And the breakdown shows Lafayette actually has the most signals and Orinda right after that, along with Moraga. The 18 signals listed under the OBAG 3 is also included in the 56 that's shown there. Just want to make the clarification, it's not separate. And here's a breakdown of the funding for these projects. The OBAG 3 component, which is a county-wide effort, the Lamorinda portion of it is almost $2 million. And of that, the federal funding component is close to 1.7. And the earmark fund, which is primarily focused on the Lamorinda signals project, is about $5.2 million. And of that, $4.2 million comes from the federal funds. The rest is provided locally and through some funds that CCTA was able to secure through MTC grants. The next couple of slides are just a quick view of how the signals are distributed. And as you can see in this picture here, these are all the signalized intersections within Lafayette. And as noted, the blue dots represent those signals that are funded both by OBAG and the earmark grant. And the reds are primarily the community funded grants. Now, as far as specifically separating out which fund pays for like what kind of improvements, those things will be addressed during the design phase of the projects. but the idea is always to find the most efficient way to use the funds to bring all the signals to the most updatable state that we can achieve. And here's the map for Moraga. One thing to note, the blue dots in this represents only the earmark fund project, and the orange represents OBAC plus earmark. And this is for Orinda. Just to keep everybody engaged, in here, the blue represents OBAC plus earmark, and the other color represents earmark only. And there is one signal at the southernmost part of Orinda, which is actually shared by both Orinda and Moraga. So we will be sharing the costs on the improvement for that too. So current status on this project, I believe last year we were little past where the other presentation you heard about today is. We just secured the grants at that time, or we heard about the grants, and things are starting to get into motion. And now, since then, we've been awarded both the grants, and CCTA is playing a major role in delivery of the projects. So they are acting as the project manager for these signal projects. So all three Lamorinda agencies have signed an agreement, funding agreement with them to provide the local match component for it. And in addition to that, CCTA is working directly with Caltrans to require the respective authorizations to move the design forward. On the county-wide project, the design is also funded through federal funds, so they have secured authorization to allow move forward with that phase. So there is a proposal out currently to secure design services, which the plan is to get, the design will start in summer of 2024. On the earmark side, CCTAs already have Advanced Mobility Group is one of the consultants who will be overseeing the design on the county-wide portion, but will be doing the actual design for the Lamorinda component. So that contract is already in place, and all three agencies just recently finished the funding agreement. So that project is in progress right now, the design part of it. Well, most of what I covered till now is primarily just an update of where we are. I just want to touch a little bit more into how this project ties in with what Afshan just went over. So as noted, this project would come under the transportation leg of the three-legged stool, so to speak. So one of the major component of the signal project, the primary goal is to improve safety, mobility, and being prepared, all three cities, to adapt to future advancements in technology as things progress more and more towards newer artificial intelligence-based systems and such. So slide's not supposed to look like that. Okay. So here's a quick representation of what actually is involved in upgrading the signal. So when we say signal upgrades, the current setup we have, and I believe this is true for almost all three agencies, most of our intersections have very old systems that are not capable of communicating with each other unless there is a direct fiber optic or a wired connection between them. So the first component of this upgrade will involve replacing those cabinets and controllers to use more latest technology that has the ability to communicate with the other systems. The next step would involve replacing traditional detection methods, which is typically done using loops on the pavement to move towards more camera video-based detection on intersections. And in this project, as part of this project, there is also a focus on trying to upgrade it to even the video detection to be a more advanced level video detection that could benefit the overall system mechanics. I'll go a little bit more into detail in a coming slide on that. And then in addition to that, we will be implementing fiber optic connection or cellular based connections which will allow each intersection to communicate with each other, thus making it easier to control timing changes on the fly, so to speak. And then the next step would be to add video and data analytics, which primarily is a data gathering system, which constantly monitors, collects data, allows staff to study the data and prepare for future scenarios or special situations. All these together will work towards protecting more of the vulnerable population, which is the pedestrians, bicyclists, through the intersection. And in addition, will also provide improve smart mobility through the corridors. So the 5 steps I just mentioned, those will fall within the first 3 steps of this chart here that's in front of you, which is what we call the smart signals component. As noted here, the first one will be updating the controllers itself, asset improvement, and then second step to make them a little bit more smarter by using more latest technology-based devices. And then the third step would be to make them communicate with each other. As a future implementation, this will then eventually be moved to the next level of communicating with other city infrastructure, such as parking programs and emergency programs or street lighting, those kind of things, which can all work as one individual system, and then eventually that will all start getting connected into the overall county-wide smart system, where it will allow for a county-wide traffic control, and in a situation such as an evacuation, it will allow for more communication between emergency personnel and county staff that are managing the traffic movements. So some key benefits of this smart signals upgrade is bicycle, pedestrian, and support for people with disabilities, improve micro mobility, and transit support. The pedestrian and bicycle detection system, it increases safety by proactively identifying situations that can occur, and actually even recommending suggestions to prevent near miss situations. The signal synchronization control improves smooth traffic flow and relieves congestion. This will also allow us to have a designated evacuation route set up within each city's programs. That way, in situation of any emergency, staff are more prepared and aligned in focusing traffic through those corridors and more, evacuate vehicles in a more systemic manner. So a little bit about the traffic signal, the smart traffic signal system. Like I mentioned, so it allows for dynamic traffic control. What that means is it's not just looking at one thing. It's an integrated system that takes multiple data points into consideration and sends that to a remote monitoring location. So it's not required for personnel to be in the field. It all can be controlled from a transportation center hub, where all the data gets moved, and then using that real-time traffic data, which also can be shared with emergency personnel who are in the field trying to coordinate any emergency operations, such as like a wildfire evacuation. Having that data in immediate availability and in the hands of the emergency personnel will allow for more smooth movement of traffic through in a very stressful situation. It also helps with coordinating with other cities. Like we recently just heard, all 3 Lamorinda agencies are kind of interdependent in how we navigate as far as traffic comes, because the corridors, we have some primary corridors that we all rely on. And this will allow not only communications with individual cities, but between all 3 agencies, and have that ability to focus on targeted problem areas and try to dissipate the traffic and ease to a more orderly evacuation scenario. Of course, again, it has the ability to manipulate the signals to allow for prioritizing emergency vehicles in emergency situations. And the cameras, this is the one I mentioned previously. So not only the video detection system is getting upgraded, it actually is will be using more advanced artificial intelligence-based technologies, which will allow to identify like it is targeted areas, like any blockages. If there is a specific event in the area, we can use models to study that, anticipate specific targeted areas where blockages would happen, be more prepared, and route traffic in alternate routes that can move traffic in a more smoother manner. It can be the integration with other technologies also allows us to not only communicate within the city, but with other agencies and the county as well. So when we are sharing services from different agencies such as MOFD and Confire, it allows for sharing the technology and the data on a live manner. And as you can see in this slide here, the pictures on the left represent basically traditional video detection system. And this is what I was referring to as trying to implement a little advanced technology. So on the pictures on the left, the primary focus of the detection system was to identify the vehicles, not necessarily all the elements around it. But the newer, more advanced technology systems that we have nowadays uses artificial intelligence, and it's able to not only identify cars, but also separate pedestrians, bicycles, and transit systems, and the emergency vehicles. And having that data will actually provide staff not only the ability to manipulate the traffic in a more reasonable manner. The system itself is actually capable of providing proactive assistance and help prevent accidents using video analytics methodology. All right. So overall, the Smart Signals project will not only bring significant improvements to the day-to-day traffic operations, it will also act as a vital tool during an emergency situation, such as wildfire evacuation. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Siha. Questions, Councilmember Warlecki.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you so much for the presentation. It's very informative, very substantial. Because of the interdependencies between the three cities, the boundary you can draw around it, this is just such a logical opportunity, and I see it as being a very high potential return. Drilling down, here's my question. Drilling down, for a system like this, do you yet know whether 5G cellular is a requirement, and are we ready for that at this point in time in terms of implementation of that technology?
I do know that it actually is capable of cellular connectivity, and for Lamorinda region, we are actually more dependent on cellular connectivity than fiber. I do know it's capable of connection through cellular based systems, but I do not know for a fact if 5G is a component of it. I don't know.
Since many of the locations of the traffic signals have long distances, we may have to go to cellular type of systems instead of more costly fiber optics going from intersection to intersection because of the cost. And so as we go through, we're going to explore which would be the best and most cost-effective method for connecting the intersections. Something to kind of build on Siva's presentation. When in regards to evacuations, trying to automate the system to talk to each other so we can have evacuations. I know the police and the fire department have done many mock evacuation exercises with citizens, and they've had to use some 40 to 50 residents or volunteers to man intersections, to direct traffic and such. There were some pictures up there showing like directional arrows we'd be able to control that without the need of using a police officer or fire department personnel. They can be responding to the the incident, and we can automate that with the equipment being able to control from central location. So some of these things are going to help kind of force multiply us, be able to respond to the situation as we move forward. And all this is, we're going along with new technology, but other agencies have already done this. So we're kind of building upon something that's already in front of us.
Councilmember Sass.
Thank you, Mayor. Siva, thank you for the presentation. This project is exciting and it's obviously going to be incredibly beneficial to all three of our communities. When it's up and running, what happens in the event of a widespread power outage?
That is a good question. So all the intersections will have some sort of backup power set up in as part of the signal upgrade. And in addition to that, for the Lamorinda agencies, we are actually, all staff are working closely to kind of really drill down during the design phase. So we have already shared some thoughts what we want to do about extending the backup system to the extent possible. We don't have a clear grasp of the costs associated with such an expanded backup system, but that is something we plan to look into and see how far we can take it, because typical backup systems are operational only for a day or two at the most. So in an extended power outage situation, which we have experienced in the past, with maybe PSPS or potential evacuation system during a fire event, we feel like it may need extended power source. So that is something that has been shared with the designers. And when they get to that point, when there's more data available, we will be able to make a more informed decision on how much we want to have capacity for backup.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor G.
Thank you very much, Siva. I have a question. So under non-emergency conditions, is the entire system controlled from a central location? And if so, where is it?
Well, definitely Orinda, there is none that exists right now. I think that's the same for all three agencies. So we will have to set up a traffic operations control center, so to speak. It's similar to one of the pictures you saw that was displayed, likely involve a few monitors, but the core of the operations is intercommunication between the intersections, and just the data gets transferred to the operations center. And there is back-end systems that will be put in place to manipulate that data in a way that will make our operations more easier.
And so again, under non-emergency conditions, is every intersection doing real-time adjustment?
That is correct. Yeah, it is it's like a full-time setup, but there are options to make it more prepared for an emergency situation and implement emergency protocols during like an evacuation situation. But day-to-day operations will also benefit quite a bit, particularly when we have pocketed traffic issues. Since we are able to see live data and also analyze that data that the system constantly collects, it'll give us a better view of how the traffic patterns move. Currently, we look at each individual intersections and study those intersections, those traffic movements, and try to time the signals according to that. This will allow us to look at it from a whole city-based system. So for Orinda, it'll be looking at all 18 signals and see which is our primary corridor and how that can move at 8 o'clock in the morning versus 8:20, because that 15 minutes make a significant difference. And the system will be able to teach us to improve those traffic flows throughout.
Mayor Anoda.
Thank you. Thank you, Sevan. I guess my question is, will each town or city require more staff to monitor this?
That is a good question. I do not have an answer for that at this moment. I can speak for Orinda. We do not have a specific traffic engineer. It is part of something that comes under my purview, for example. So the goal will be either train one of our staff to do it, but unless we ourselves get trained by the system implementers, it'll be kind of hard to see. Hopefully the system will, between the data collection and the ability to use the data to put us in a more prepared state, will eliminate the need for significant staff addition. But that is something we'll have to explore as the design progresses.
Could I also follow up on that in that we are partnering with CCTA, which is implementing the project for us. And so while each of the agencies will have their own individual control stations, it may not be as large of a big control room based on how many signals we have, but we can have agreements looking into the future with CCTA to manage the implementation for the whole region, all depending on the needs of each of the individual agencies and the councils and how they want us to operate the system. So we'll be coming back to our councils with a lot of questions to get answers on how you'd like us to start the system, operate the system. What are kind of your parameters for how we utilize it? Of course, we want to be talking to, each of the agencies want to be talking to each other so we can optimize through the agencies. But these are all questions that we'll have for you as we go through the implementation process and develop a way, deliver it in the manner that the Lamorinda agencies want. So we're at the beginning, and there'll be sessions with each of the councils trying to figure out how the best way to move forward.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Malkani?
One question. Whenever you talk about control center and smart technology, it always makes me wonder if there's either in planning or especially in funding, is there built into this project an idea of how to deal with cybersecurity and protect cybersecurity? And thank you, Siva, for an excellent presentation.
Welcome. I don't believe I have a direct answer for that question. That is a technical question, so I'll have to defer it, but I can definitely follow up. Unless, Sean, do you have any background on that?
Sure, this is a countywide project, and as part of that, security is going to be very important. So there's going to be measures put in place for protecting each of the systems, making sure they're isolated from any kind of intrusion. So that'll be part of the considerations of the design process for each of the equipment and figuring out how we communicate securely between each of the agencies.
Thank you.
McCormick?
Thank you. This does seem quite exciting project, and I think it's great that all the cities are working together. An observation and a question. Observation, I've been in systems, not this big, but big. I worry we're going to get so much data coming in from 50 plus signals coming in with all this real-time data 24 hours a day. I think as you go through the design, it's really going to be important to figure out how we figure out the actionable pieces, because there's a lot of these systems we just get just a ton of information and what do we do with it? It's just be so complicated. So I look forward. I think that's gonna be a really big part. Some of it we can decide as leaders, but others we're just gonna have to we're gonna need the system to kind of guide us. Second question, you mentioned, or the question is, you mentioned, it looked like we have a layer upon layer of different kinds of technology we're kind of rolling out to kind of put this thing in there. In the implementation, are we thinking, are you going to look at one signal and do all of it, or is it going to be kind of wave after wave? Because by definition, these signals are on our traffic congested roads, and people hate waiting. And if we have, I just worry about waves of construction happening as we upgrade the system. So I'm just making sure that we think of efficiency of construction and consolidation, and let's hit just one signal one time versus hitting it multiple waves. So I just don't know if there's do you have an approach for that, or if that's something that's going to be decided during design?
Right. So on the first part, the data component of it, big data is a big thing now. So even there are the systems that are currently in place that we probably don't use at the moment, use a significant amount of data, but it's also filtered to our needs. So it's usually customized in a way that what we as staff see at the end is based on our needs and the queries we put into it and the way we set it up. So although the idea is to gather all the data, I think when it comes to us, it comes in a more refined manner that's more usable for us. But that is a great point, because if that is something we will be working closely with the designers when they're actually in the process of design. One of the things that all three staff from all three agencies have shared with CCTA is the requirement that we all be very involved during the design process and be able to provide more input and feedback as they're going through the process. So we will definitely address that. As for the implementation, right now, this is being looked at two big projects, and the Lamorinda component, like I mentioned, it's already in design phase, so to speak. It's in the early stages of starting design, but it will likely move quicker than the county-wide project because, like I mentioned, that's like 328 intersections versus 56 altogether. So CCTA is trying to break it down into a more manageable pieces. I don't have specifics on that per se, but the hope is that we build these projects at the same time when they go into construction. So although the design is not going to be exactly parallel, there might be a little bit offset between the design phases. When it goes out for construction, it gets built as one project. There is some economies of scale and efficiency built into the thought. The other thing I wanted to mention, oh, sorry, I lost my thought there. The affected traffic, I believe that is something that will be looked at as part of the construction engineering phase of it, where the actual impacts, because the signals, I mean, they will have to be impacted one way or other, but usually we manage that by kind of phasing it out in a manner that doesn't disturb traffic in a significant way. And also these are individual components that get upgraded. It's not, so the controller and the cameras. So the actual implementation will depend on what exactly the package is put together and how the contractor approaches that, but there will be good enough controls that we will be able to put in place so that we can make sure the traffic doesn't get impacted significantly.
Dr. Mihalis?
Thank you. The question is on a regular use basis. A lot of the things we're talking about are very technical. What will our residents see in terms of improvement in their commute or their travel through our communities? How will these smart signals change that for them?
The goal is to make the traffic flow more smoother. So they should start seeing more, less time waiting for signal turnovers. It's always like when the current setup is the signals are timed in a certain manner. Either they are detection based or they are on a loop based system. Primarily on a severely congested intersection during commute hours, it mostly is in a loop based system. So this will allow that to function more on a capacity based system, so it can monitor. So that will be one of the impacts they will likely see readily. And the other component of it is the safety side of it. This is not only looking at vehicular traffic. The system is so integrated to focus also on pedestrian, bicycle, and other transit community. So there is provisions that can allow transit vehicles priority and get them through intersections. And also, like I mentioned, there is video analytics methodology that proactively will let us know that there is a potential for a conflict or an accident and prepare staff to address that on the fly.
And if a follow-up, if I may, on that. So I know in other communities, fire trucks, I'm thinking police cars have the ability to prioritize when the lights switch. I don't know that we have that now. Will this provide that kind of functionality?
It will, yes.
Okay.
I don't know the exact specifics of the technicalities of how the system exactly will be implemented, but yes, the simple answer is.
Thank you.
Could I provide you one example of the smart technology being able to recognize if there was a pedestrian in the intersection? So most intersections are set up on a timed event. Someone pushes a button, it gives a walk signal. It allows a certain amount of time based on a certain speed of a walker to get across. And let's say somebody is not progressing or somebody enters the intersection after the button's been pushed and is coming in at the end and it has not cleared the intersection. Well, the signal would recognize there are people still in the intersection and would still keep a red light to protect those. So that's part of the smart technology that's going to be helping both, all modes of, separating all modes of transportation so they're not interlocking.
Any more questions? Councilmember Nduri?
Yeah, thank you very much for the report. In the report, you covered the costs for constructing the system. Is there an estimate of what the ongoing costs will be for the system once it's in place? That our mayor mentioned that we have a fiscal sustainability issue. I'm just wondering what the ongoing costs will be for the project.
Are you asking about the operational costs, so to speak?
Yes,
Maintenance and
I
operation?
assume these are the costs to put it in place.
Right.
And then after it's in place, is there an estimate of how much it'll cost each city to maintain the system?
So as far as the physical operational maintenance, that will likely remain the same, but having a newer system probably will be a little bit more spread out. So currently, each agency handles that slightly different. For Orinda, we have a private consultant that helps us with traffic operational maintenance. If there is an issue with the signal, we call in and put in a service ticket and they take care of it. I believe Lafayette or Moraga has the county, has a contract with the county to do the same service. Now that part of it will likely remain the same even with this newer technology because that's just maintaining the equipment and servicing it as needed. On the staffing side, like we talked about, we will know more about what the needs are, but that additional staff cost, if any, will be the cost that we'll have to consider. I hope that answers it.
Initially, there might be a savings in maintenance operation because we're installing new equipment. Much of the equipment in the Lamorinda area is very old. It's outdated. It's hard to get parts for. Sometimes we salvage parts from other systems that have already been decommissioned and try to patch back systems together. So it's kind of like your planned acid replacement. You've kind of reached the limit of the usefulness of the material and the equipment, and we're replacing with something that's going to last longer. So initially, we might see savings in maintenance costs because there's not going to be as many repair costs, associated calls associated with repairing the infrastructure. As we mentioned, there might be some additional costs for maintenance from an operational standpoint with doing adjustments as we get used to the system and try to make improvements. But again, we're going to try to partner on a regional basis to cut down our costs. So individually, each of the agencies are not having to individually manage this additional load, maybe on a more regional spread out cost. We can work with our CCTA partners who want this to work in the long term. So they're looking at strategies, how to fund this for us, helping us fund this into the future.
Good question. They're all good questions. Any more questions? Well, I just have one comment about, I noticed in the first presentation, there was a consideration for resiliency in the electrification of the network, and it was mentioned about remote solar facilities. Will that be something you consider too for backup here?
Yeah, we are looking at multiple methodologies to provide backup power, battery-based, solar-based. Even in situations that we have discussed possibility of having a portable generator-based system in the extreme conditions. There are, those core locations where those kind of setup will be needed. So yes, all sorts of technologies will be looked at, and whatever would work out, we will implement those.
That would be great. I think it was last summer we had some outages in downtown for no reason. There was no storm and they couldn't figure it out. PG&E couldn't figure it out. But signals were out on Mount Diablo and also some other important thoroughfares. So it was not a good situation. So especially in these emergency situations, we'll definitely want a good backup plan. So thank you. And thank you very much. If there's no more questions from council, I will turn it over to public comment. Sorry, did you have? Oh, yes, we will after public comment. We'll bring it back. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Dawson is taking public comments on item 8B. And Mayor Dawson, I have no speaker slips for persons in the hall, and I have No hands raised in our virtual audience.
Thank you. Did you want to start the discussion now? We'll bring it back to council.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you so much to both teams, or the team that's addressing the two opportunities here. In 2018, while campaigning, I walked basically the entire town of Moraga, and one of the top issues that I heard concerned traffic and especially emergency evacuation. The other big input I received was the status of our challenged shopping centers, by the way. And, you know, since that time, our emergency responders have done a lot of work planning and testing and communication. And I really commend them for that. But anecdotally, I'm still hearing a lot of challenges from residents or disbelief that we could really handle a major wildfire. And I raise this as sort of an add-on to my, and I'm really talking about the first, the emergency evacuation study. You know, stakeholder engagement, and I think that I suggest you really sort of consider the stakeholders to potentially be distrustful or challenging as you move this forward. It's going to take a bit to really give people confidence, at least in the Moraga area, that we can actually pull off a major evacuation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sass.
Thank you. This endeavor, I think, is very consistent with two priorities that all of us share on behalf of our residents. One is safety of our pedestrians, especially around schools. We're all very focused on that, and this goes part and parcel with that. And so that technology is, I think, is very exciting. And the second is, as Steve has already mentioned, evacuation, and using this technology to support the efforts of our wonderful public safety officers who are all out there to move people if necessary. So thank you for the update. I think that the questions about ongoing costs and so forth are very good, but there's an opportunity here to take advantage of economies of scale and to have cost sharing occur not just across our three cities, but also across the county to the benefit of all the jurisdictions. So look forward to hearing the next update, and great work by the staffs of all three of our cities. And thank you again, CCTA, for your partnership.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, then I will second the many thanks to staff, CCTA, and all our partners on this endeavor. It is exciting, and it's coming along, and we're very happy about that. So thank you very much. With that, we will move on to our next item, which is adjournment, I believe. Yes, it is. Before that, I just want to say thanks again to everyone here. And our partners are here. We have Chief McAllister and Chief Winokur for our fire safety, and our police chiefs are here. We have McAllister, Sullivan, and I'm sorry, we have Chief King here as well. So thank you for being here and partnering with us. CCTA, John, thank you for all of your work, and to Tim as well with all of our communities. It's your valued partner, of course. And thank you all. With that, we are adjourned. And there's cookies in the back, so please. Yay.